Here we have a high school portrait, and what happened was the student came too late and the photographer had already struck the set, meaning there was no lighting for the background, so I was like, okay, quick, we'll take the picture and we'll add the light in the background to separate the student with Photoshop. So let me show you how that was done. I need to make a good alpha channel, so I'm going to inspect my channels. You zoom to 100%. I'll look for the one that has the best contrast. Red, green, blue. Say the red channel is the best contrast, best separation between the subject and the background. I'm going to duplicate the red copy, the red channel. Now, I could use levels, I could use curves to increase the contrast, but many times when you do that, you'll lose these delicate transitions. You see, there's not a great tonal difference between his hair and the background. So what you want to do is take advantage of blending modes. But look at this. There are no blending modes in the channels unless you use the following technique. Duplicated the channel. You're going to select all, edit, copy, and then immediately edit, paste. Your picture will not have changed. But what the select all, edit, copy, edit, paste does is it activates the fade command. And the blending modes are available in the fade. So the ones I usually start with are these three: overlay, soft light, or hard light, because they increase contrast. And look what a beautiful separation there is with that one choice. I'm going to click OK. You can repeat. I don't need to select, it's still selected. I actually don't need to copy because the red channel is still there. Just choose Edit, Paste, and then Edit, Fade. You could try overlight, soft light, hard light again, but I feel they're a little too contrasty. Interestingly enough, try color dodge, and you see how the midtones open up and gives you good separation? That's a useful blending mode. Click OK. Now I have a good foundation for the mask. I'm going to start with my lasso tool and select just inside of him, because I'm going to have to do brush work to maintain the transitions. And I can hit the delete key and force fill that with white. Now I'm going to paint with white with my brush set to overlay. Paint in, there's the shirt. Might have to switch, paint with black. I always have one hand on my X key, which switches foreground and background color. Takes a little bit of patience, just working on separation. Get the hair, because I think that this teenager was very proud of his spiky hair, so we definitely want to maintain it. Got the separation going. That's good. And I'll get some of those details with a standard brush. Get my brush, black. I'm going to zoom out so I can very quickly paint over the background to make it completely black. If you zoom out, your brush will seem larger in relationship to your file. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to a normal brush and zoom in and create the transition between the edges of the hair and what I lassoed. So it's a little bit of back and forth. You'll use the overlay brush and then do the final cleanup with the normal brush and paint out any remnants that you see. Okay, that's a good start. Now, I'm going to return back to RGB, come over to my layers palette, double click so that that layer can support the mask that I'm going to load. Select Load Selection and Red Copy. Click OK. I'm going to click on my Layer Mask button And now he's sitting on transparency. Don't worry if you see any of these jaggy edges here. You always want to view these at 100%. I'm going to take care of that kind of darkness as soon as I drop in the new background. Now, I'm going to Command click, Control click to drop the layer behind or underneath the subject, and I'm going to replace this background with a nice rich burgundy. And then the trick in studio lighting is to let the light fall off. So choose black as your background color. Now I can use the gradient tool, making sure that I'm using the first gradient, which is black to white, and I'm going to use radial, and starting behind him, and it looks like studio lighting. And you can draw a few pulls to get it just right. You see now that edge isn't harsh at all because the darkness is blending in with the background. So let's see how we're doing. Here it's still a little bit too harsh, too cut out. What you do is refine the layer mask. I'm going to just use the blur tool selectively to soften the transition a little bit. Not even blurring the entire mask. I'm not blurring his hair, I'm blurring the mask, which gives you a nicer transition. Now you see this little tiny hair that's hanging off the side of his head? You need to decide, is it more important to maintain every single hair or to make the image look good? And I believe it's to make the image look good, so bye-bye. Just paint with black to get rid of that hair. Soften that cheek up a little bit. There we go. So that's already looking a lot better. Okay, that he has that new background. And what I like to do, whenever you use the gradient tool, it looks very computery, much too smooth. So I like adding a little bit of noise to it. So I'm going to go Layer, New Layer, and name this Noise, and change the blending mode to Soft Light. Click, Fill with Soft Light Neutral Color. It creates an invisible layer that I can run the texture filters on. Add a little noise here. I'm actually going to exaggerate it because I want to create more of a brushed linen look. I've added the noise, and on top of this, I'm going to add a motion blur. And that'll give me a little bit of a linen look. Okay? Now, if you're having problems seeing that, if it's a little too delicate, what's interesting is you can sharpen the noise layer, filter, sharpen, unsharp mask. And I'm going to exaggerate this amount a great deal, and that's going to bring out that texture. Can you see that when I hold the preview down? And by adjusting the opacity, of the noise layer, I can enhance or make the effect a little bit milder. This noise layer with the texture, you have to print it out to actually see what it looks like. It might look a little too strong on screen, but once you print it, that will all soften back. And that's it. So take advantage of this technique of duplicating the channel, copying it, and pasting it into itself, and using the Edit Fade command to enhance the contrast with the blending modes. It's a fantastic technique. I use this all the time, and it's amazing how quickly you can get your work done.